All the talk around the Boston Red Sox has been Jarren Duran potentially getting traded. But what about Masataka Yoshida?
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And it's completely free. So make sure you always tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. What's up, people? Happy Friday. It's the end of the week. It's a beautiful thing. The Red Sox are finally back home from what felt like such a long road trip. Definitely some frustrations in there, but also some positive takeaways, especially in the series against the Philadelphia Phillies, in which the Red Sox really were in that series more than people might think they were. So definitely some positive aspects to take away too, but also obviously some things that are a little upsetting to take away from it, like Marcelo Mayer's injury. I'm going to be diving a little bit more into that on today's show, as well as I'm going to be joined later on by Locked On Pirates host Gary Morgan, where we are going to discuss potential trade scenarios between the Red Sox and the Pirates. But speaking of the trade deadline, there's been all of this talk surrounding Jarren Duran getting traded and him being the primary trade piece that the Boston Red Sox could move at this deadline to acquire likely pitching. So while that could still be the case, I talked about him on my show earlier this week, how I don't think Jarren Duran should be traded and how it might not necessarily make sense to trade him. Somebody who could be traded that actually has more value than you may think is Masataka Yoshida, because he essentially, before being a DH, was an outfielder. So he's still considered in the mix of outfielders that the Red Sox have on this roster that they need to make space for. And right now, he is primarily DHing. Last year, he was the go-to DH. But now, this year, he's been kind of platooning that role with Roman Anthony. So he's not even getting everyday playing time, but he's getting paid everyday playing time money. So it gets difficult because it becomes harder to justify paying Yoshida what he's being paid without actually playing him every day. So that could be something to look into if you're the Boston Red Sox, because Yoshida is 32 years old and has a solid enough career OPS plus of 110. So just for context, OPS and OPS plus are two different stats. OPS is simply the sum of a player's on-base percentage and slugging percentage. Literally stands for on-base plus slugging, and that's a straight-up number based on that. OPS plus actually adjusts for park factors and league averages, so it makes it a more reliable metric for comparing players across different teams and eras because it actually accounts for different scenarios. So OPS plus is an adjusted version where 100 represents league average, so higher numbers indicate better performance. So his OPS plus is actually better than average, which is something he has going for him, and he can be the primary half of a strong DH platoon while also seeing some spot opportunities in left field. He is a useful player if he's used properly, but he doesn't really make a lot of sense for the Red Sox roster right now because, again, the contract that the Red Sox gave him was for 5 years, $90 million, and it'll pay him over $37 million from 2026 to 2027. So there might be a team out there that is desperate enough for offense to put him in left field, which returns a little bit of value, but the contract is what's tough. And if the Red Sox want to move on from Yoshida, they're likely going to have to take on at least some of that contract because it'd be hard to sell a team on taking that on. He returned to the lineup earlier this month after missing the first half of the season, recovering from shoulder surgery, but he was able to hit in spring training, so his prolonged absence from the team was mostly due to Rafael Devers clogging up the DH spot, which was essentially already a sign that he's never been a very good fit for this version of the Red Sox roster. And then all of a sudden, when the Red Sox traded Devers, they sped up his process of returning to the major league roster. So it's definitely something to think about because although Yoshida has become a fan favorite in Boston, it's hard to justify keeping him there longer term. And also it's tough because basically the Red Sox would essentially have to admit defeat on signing him to the contract that they did, basically convincing somebody to take him and his offense and probably getting not as big of a return as they would like if it was him alone in the trade that was included, but it would create more roster flexibility if there's a team up for the deal and if the Red Sox are willing to take on at least some of his contract. And with where Roman Anthony is at right now, if the Red Sox do see Roman Anthony as a key piece of this team for the future, which I truly believe that they do, then he's likely going to be a guy they're going to want to continue to get more DH reps. And it would be hard to platoon him with Yoshida when it comes to his development process. So when it comes to that, that's another reason why it could make sense to move on from Yoshida at this trade deadline, because then they can really focus on Roman Anthony and his development process in that role as well as in the outfield. Now, another thing to think about is what teams could be a fit if the Red Sox were to move on from Yoshida, who is supposed to be an everyday player right now, but there just isn't room for that on the Red Sox roster right now. He is a hitter that some teams really could need, especially if you're a team like the Phillies and Guardians, because since the Red Sox have endless depth in the outfield and someone needs to go, he could be the guy because you could justify trading him over Duran because Duran's been there all season, or even Abreu or Rafaela, because the locker room chemistry that these guys have established while Yoshida was injured is something that they could jeopardize if they move on from one of those other players. So that's why it could make sense to move him to a team like the Guardians, especially given how Jhostynxon Noel had regressed to the point where he was demoted to AAA. And nobody outside of Steven Kwan or Jose Ramirez is hitting over 240 on that team right now. And they're also listening to calls for Emmanuel Clase and Cade Smith. So they're definitely open to moving people. So there are options for returns there. And Yoshida could be a great boost to that offense as a designated hitter. So in order to sell a team like Cleveland on Yoshida, what the Red Sox could do is include him in a package. I'm thinking something along the lines of maybe shortstop / second baseman Mikey Romero, who's a really talented prospect in the Red Sox system, or shortstop / second baseman Franklin Arias, or the famous outfielder Jhostynxon Garcia, aka the Password, who is just lighting it up in AAA right now. Franklin Arias is the Red Sox number 2 prospect right now, and the Password is number 3. So because they're top 5 prospects in the Red Sox system, that could really help uplift the Guardians farm system to what is already a solid foundation. And they don't really need any more middle infielders or outfielders anytime soon. So that's something that could benefit them in the future. And with the Red Sox, they could have Yoshida highlighting the package, and that could help bring in a headliner in return. The Red Sox would not get as many players back in the deal, but they'd almost have to accept that and be okay with that. The salary is the biggest thing, though. He's making $18 million a season. So most likely the Red Sox would have to eat some of that. But ideally, if they could try to find a trade partner that works and is interested in Yoshida and is willing to take on his contract, it could be really beneficial for both sides, as long as the Red Sox say, hey, we'll take on some of the financial burden of what his contract involves because they know it's expensive and they know that that's going to lower the return on what they get. But from a roster standpoint, it could help yield a pitcher that the Red Sox could really need to add to their staff. So will they find a trade partner for Yoshida? Maybe not, but it's definitely something to think about. And coming up, what's going on with Marcelo Mayer? I'm going to be giving an update on his injury and what it means for the Red Sox next. We all have times where at the last minute we decide we're going to go to a sporting event or a concert or a comedy show, whatever it may be. Gametime has you covered for those last minute decisions. What makes Gametime so great is it's always cheaper than other ticketing vendors, and it gives you a view from your seat so you know it's not obstructed. Ever since I started using Gametime, it's the only ticketing vendor I actually use now at all. So it's been fantastic. And I highly recommend you doing it anytime you're going to a live event to make sure that it makes your ticket experience simple and fast when it comes to purchasing them. Incredible last minute deals too, as they actually drop the closer you get to first pitch when it comes to the price. So it's better to wait. So last minute is not bad with Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I promise you, it really does guarantee the lowest price no matter what. So the Boston Red Sox are in a position now where they feel confident in being buyers at the trade deadline. Craig Breslow has come out and said that he plans to add to this team and he likes what he's seen from them. And that's great. Obviously, they stumbled across the Cubs and the Phillies coming out of the All-Star break, lost a tough series against the Cubs, and then lost a series against the Phillies, but it was a really competitive series. They managed to grind out a win in 11 innings in the last game of that series, and the first game of the series was a loss in extra innings, 3-2. So they had two really close games in that series, showing that they can compete with the best teams in the league right now. So that should be a sure sign that the Red Sox have the capability and just need to add a few more pieces to get them over that hump. So what those moves are that are made remains to be seen, but some bad news for the Red Sox as we get excited about the possibility of them buying at the trade deadline is Marcelo Mayer now dealing with an injury. So he exited the Wednesday night game against the Phillies with right wrist discomfort. So he kept a fifth inning rally alive prior to leaving the game as he drew a walk with 2 outs that loaded the bases before coming around to score when Romy Gonzalez belted that go-ahead grand slam for the Red Sox. And Mayer was replaced by Abraham Toro, who slid into the 9 spot in the lineup and took over at third base. So obviously him leaving the game at first, people were unsure as to why, but the ESPN broadcast actually noticed him holding his wrist. So then he went into the dugout to be examined by a trainer, and he was trying to show that his wrist was bothering him, and he ended up wearing a wrist brace after the game. So he ultimately ended up having to get an MRI done yesterday to determine the extent of his injury. He said, "I just felt a little tight grab in my wrist when I took a swing in my second at bat. I knew I really couldn't do anything after that, so I just called it a game." He said, "It's in pain, but hopefully it's not too severe." So fingers crossed there. I mean, it's obviously not ideal for him to have an extended period of time spent on the injured list, because that would be really detrimental to the Red Sox infield, because you still have Alex Bregman, who isn't running still at full speed or playing every day after the quad injury that kept him on the sidelines for nearly 2 months. So the Red Sox are trying to take it easy with him and make sure that he doesn't injure himself more. And then Christian Campbell is still struggling to find his swing in the minor leagues. He's batting just 200 with a 373 on base percentage and 300 slugging with 34 strikeouts in 23 games with the Woo Sox. And his struggles there mean that he probably wouldn't be the guy that comes up to replace Mayer if he does have to go on the injured list. After Jesus Luzardo walked Mayer in the 5th inning, a lot of things went well for the Red Sox. After that, obviously, they ultimately ended up winning the game, but the 22-year-old is batting .228 with a .272 on base percentage and .402 slugging with 8 doubles, a triple, 4 home runs, and 10 RBIs in 44 games since his promotion to the major league. So he's made quite the noise since getting called up in May. And the question is now going to be, how does this impact the Red Sox? Because what are they looking at here in terms of who can replace him? Obviously, they are hoping for the best, that he's not out longer term. But if he does need an IL stint and somebody has to come up, it could be David Hamilton, a guy who spent a lot of time on the major league roster this season before ultimately getting sent down to Worcester upon Alex Bregman's return from the IL. He could be the guy that gets called up. While he provides a lot of speed and is somebody who could help put pressure on opposing pitchers with his base stealing ability, the problem is that he plays mediocre defense and his offense is absolutely abysmal. He does not provide much value at all at the plate, and that's one of the reasons why the Red Sox had no choice but to send him down to the minors, because when he was up with the major league team, he wasn't really doing his job at the plate. So could he be the guy that the Red Sox promote? Possibly. There's also Christian Campbell, who I mentioned before, who could be an option, but he started the season on the major league roster and had a great month of April, but then after that slipped into a long period of struggle that he was unable to climb out of. And at first, when those struggles started, the Red Sox were hoping that it was just a slump that he would get out of. But there were a lot of things with his swing mechanically that the Red Sox saw that they wanted him to work on in the minors, particularly his timing and making sure that he's not late on his swings. So that's something that he's continuing to work on. He's still struggling in the minors, so potentially he could be the option, but I'm not seeing it with his recent struggles in AAA. I think the Red Sox want to see him continue to do reps there and hope that he shows some improvement at the minor league level. So it probably won't be him. Vaughn Grissom could be an option. He's been kind of silently having a good season in AAA this year, and nobody's really talking about it because there's always been this understanding that he's been roadblocked in the majors because of the fact that he's a middle infielder, because they have Trevor Story set at shortstop. They're not going to boot him out of that scenario. Second base was Marcelo Mayer, but if he gets hurt, now that creates an opening. But generally, when all these players are healthy, there's not really a spot on the Red Sox Major League roster for Vaughn Grissom because that middle infield is pretty much set with the guys that they have. And even with Marcelo Mayer not playing second base, Christian Campbell ultimately in the future would end up being the guy probably to play second base over Vaughn. But that's definitely a name to look out for. He could be a guy that the Red Sox say, hey, we're trusting you to be the guy that we can put in place of Marcelo to tread water at second base with, and he would be more than fine doing that. I really like a lot of what I've seen from him in Worcester this year, so that could be a possibility. Nick Sogard is also an option. He's always a safe choice because he has spent some time with the major league team last year and this year, and he produces some quality at-bats when he's up in the majors. Nothing drastic. He's not going to be a game changer in the Red Sox lineup or anything like that, but he's durable, and he can play multiple infield positions, so that's something that the Red Sox like about him, and that's a reason why he's been able to be called up as frequently as he has to be able to contribute to this Red Sox team, because he's somebody who they could slot into any of the infield positions and he could fill in and be just fine. So if there's an injury, he's one of the first people the Red Sox look to. So that's a likely possibility as well. Nate Eaton could be another option, a guy who was used as a pinch runner a lot when he was up with the major league team this season due to injury. He was somebody who was fast and could steal bases, so that's a big strength of Eaton's game. Put together a few solid at-bats, but nothing to write home about, I would say, with Nate Eaton in terms of major upside in his game. Has some baseball IQ things that he needs to improve with in terms of being able to make the smart play at the right times and in the best scenarios. So those are all things I would say Nate Eaton still needs work with. So he could be another possibility because the Red Sox have already called him up this year. So they could see it as a benefit to them because he's somebody who has that type of experience of being, again, up with the major league team. And he's somebody that the Red Sox could see contributing value to this team moving forward. But obviously, everybody hopes that Marcelo Mayer is healthy and that he won't need much time away from the team, because I feel like the team chemistry has been at an all-time high as of lately, and Marcelo Mayer is certainly part of that. The Red Sox started winning more games in the last couple of months, especially over the last month plus since the Rafael Devers trade. They have been able to string together a nice 10-game win streak in there, and it just seems like they enjoy playing baseball and having fun. And I know that Marcelo is 100% committed, and all he wants is to go and be out there and help his team win in any way possible. And I love that attitude from him. He just is always looking for ways that he can improve, ways that he can be there for his team, and what he can do as Marcelo Mayer to go out there and contribute the best that he can to his team. So hopefully he's back out there soon, but there could be a little bit of a gap in the infield from a talent standpoint while he's out. But if we know that it's a temporary thing and he's not going to be out for that long, then whoever they call up, they just have to hope that that person is able to tread water, and they're not going to be asking for anything miraculous from them, just hoping that they can do the job and pull their weight until Mayer does come back. So fingers crossed that it's nothing too serious for him, but definitely could be a scenario in which we see him out for an extended period of time, which obviously we hope doesn't happen. But we'll see what happens there. And coming up, I'm going to be joined by Gary Morgan, host of Locked On Pirates, where we're going to be going over some potential Red Sox Pirates trade scenarios. So you definitely will not want to miss that. If you're looking for some fun new attire, Gameday Hue has you covered. So Gameday Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. The idea is to let the colors speak for you. No big logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the golf course, or really anywhere in between. So you can wear your team's colors without people saying, oh, it's a Red Sox hat. So my husband wears his hat on the golf course all the time, as well as the glove. It's not just hats that they sell. They also have split shade gloves that are made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. So there really is a lot that you can do with it. My husband reps the hat and the glove every day that he golfs, and he absolutely loves it. It's comfortable too, fits all sizes. So lots of different options to choose from there. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15. Seriously, check out some of their products. You absolutely will not be disappointed.
All right, hello and welcome to a special segment here of Crossed Over Locked On MLB. We're doing Red Sox here and the Pirates. I'm Gary from Locked On Pirates. This is Gabby from Locked On Red Sox. Say hello.
Hello, everybody.
All right. Hey, that worked. We're having technology issues tonight. So, anyways, we just want to get together and start talking about trades a little bit. These two teams are rumored. And maybe the gods don't like me talking about Quinn Priester, because that seems to be when we cut out, right? Traded Nick York for him last year. We haven't gotten any results out of it. You haven't gotten any results because you moved on. Do you guys regret the move?
Yeah, I would say a little bit for sure. I think, I was surprised for sure with how quickly they decided to move on from him, because of the fact that he's a young pitcher that the Red Sox could have developed within their system, and with where they're at right now with pitching. I definitely was a little bit surprised by that. I would say they were feeling confident in what they had in front of them in terms of their pitching and the young development with where they're at in the farm system, that my guess would be that they didn't feel like there was really an opportunity or a spot for him. So they said we might as well move on from him and try to get something for him. But, definitely would have been somebody who I would have been curious to see what he could have done with us for sure.
So, I mean, I guess that's a good place to start, Gabby. What do you think the Red Sox really need? You guys are in a different spot than I am. You're in a place where you need to add on for a goal this year. Yeah. My team just needs to add on and pretend we're trying next year. So,
yeah. It's been an interesting season for the Red Sox. The beginning of the season did not start off how people wanted it to at all. There were high expectations going into the season because the Red Sox did make some good moves this offseason to improve the team. And then all of a sudden they were going in and they weren't winning games and people were in an uproar because they said, oh, where are the Red Sox? And we want a playoff team in Boston. And so they've been playing better as of late. And now they're at the point where they're in the playoff picture. So it's looking like they're going to be buyers at the trade deadline. Definitely priorities include starting pitching for sure. They definitely need to target the starting pitching market. Garrett Crochet's been great at the top of the rotation, but they do need to slot somebody else in who could be a trustworthy and reliable starting pitcher for the second half. The first base market is another interesting area of need for the Red Sox right now. They have a platoon going between Abraham Toro and Romy Gonzalez right now that has worked out, I would say, slightly better than people thought it was going to, but that's definitely an area that they're going to be looking into is can they find somebody who can be a good, solid, consistent first baseman to take them through to the postseason.
Feel pretty good in your bullpen, or is that just a prerequisite to being a playoff contender that you have to get a bullpen guy?
Yeah, the bullpen's always an area of need that I would say could use improvement. You have a really solid closer right now in Aroldis Chapman, who has been having, the season he's been having is a lot better than I think anybody anticipated there. But definitely can't hurt.
That's a little salt in the wound for us, everybody over here on Locked On Pirates side, right?
Oh, I know. I know. I'm sorry. But yeah, he's having one of his best seasons of his career right now. Not really sure where that came from, but I'm not complaining about it. Been super reliable out of the pen. But I would say middle relief is definitely an area that the Red Sox could still use help. So I'm sure they'll be looking at the relief market, but to my understanding, it's not something that they're prioritizing at the deadline.
Now, for starting pitching, do you think they're going for rentals, or do you think it's more guys with term? Are they looking for a long-term answer or a short-term answer?
Preferably, they'd prefer a longer-term answer, somebody who's under team control for at least another couple seasons that they can continue to utilize in their rotation beyond this season. That was something that the front office has been prioritizing for a while, is looking for guys who can really contribute for more than just this season. However, the types of pitchers that they may be targeting may not be the highest caliber starting pitchers because they know that there would be a pretty steep price to pay to get some of those types of guys. So I don't know that they'd be willing to get a solid, number 2 starter per se. It probably would be more of a mid-level starter that is controllable past this year is the type of pitcher that the Red Sox would be targeting.
So it would sound to me like if we're going to try to let's make a deal here with the Pirates and Red Sox, the starting pitcher has to be an experienced starting pitcher. You're not looking for somebody that's close to the league. You're looking for somebody that's in the league, already contributing, has a track record you can trust, right?
Yes,
so that's pretty much
going
Mitch
into
Keller.
The postseason, you want somebody who has that experience that you can slot in behind Garrett Crochet and say, yep, I would trust him in a postseason game.
That's pretty much Mitch Keller. That's all we have, right? And that's a lot of term. That's 4 years. That's a decent amount of payroll too. You guys will be willing to eat that payroll, I'm sure. And I think you'd realize we are going to ask for the sun, moon, and stars for that. So what is your sun, moon, and stars that's actually available?
Yeah, the outfielders are definitely up for grabs right now because the Red Sox do have a pretty deep outfield right now. And they're at the point now where not every single outfielder is playing every day because they just don't have the space for it. So there's always an outfielder that's sitting out. Roman Anthony, definitely not going to be moved. He's the best prospect in baseball. Right. They've made it clear that he is not somebody that they are even interested in entertaining the idea of moving. But Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu are both guys who have shown a ton of talent and ability with this Red Sox team, who both could be on the trading block. And the Red Sox have said that they would be willing to move one of their outfielders if it meant getting good starting pitching in return. So that's definitely where they would start, is one of their outfielders. And that's definitely not a bad place to start, because those guys are talented. They're going to get you wins, both offensively and defensively. They've both been able to contribute. Jarren Duran is just a really versatile athlete with the speed to go along with everything else.
He's got a couple years of control left after his contract expires, right? So
he does, yeah.
And then I think, Wilyer has 3 or 4 more years of control?
Yeah, he has 3 more. Yeah. Okay. So he's another guy who you could kind of keep around, I would say. And he's been amazing. I mean, won a Gold Glove last year, and his offense has been one of the most consistent bats in the Red Sox lineup this year. So he would be a very interesting trade piece, because this is probably when his value, I would say, is at an all-time high. And he's somebody that I think, could really help a lineup like that. Although, with where the Pirates are at right now, is outfield an area of need that you would say for them?
Oh my God, yeah. For the entire time that we've had Ben Cherington here, we've needed at least one outfielder, maybe 2. We definitely need one. We need a middle of the order type guy.
Yep. And that's where Wilyer hits. Wilyer usually bats 5th or 6th. That's where he usually hits in the lineup, and it really helps boost that middle of the lineup. Duran's consistently been the Red Sox leadoff guy, but depending on where the team fits and positioning and all that, it made sense for the Red Sox to have him hit leadoff, because he's fast, and if he gets on base, it just puts that immediate pressure on opposing pitchers. But that is definitely where I could see the Red Sox starting, because they would move one of those guys for pitching, because they literally don't need all those outfielders. They're all playing well, which is what makes it hard for them to come to this conclusion of saying we actively need to shop them. So they're not really necessarily actively doing that, but they are feeding calls on these guys. And I could see easily them working out a trade that involves one of those outfielders, and that could instantly boost your lineup for at least the next, few seasons, in Abreu's case, at least.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be paying a heavy price too. I mean, our strength right now is the pitching prospects that are coming up and everything. So we feel like we might have the room to do this. Still, it's hard to trade somebody that is like a solidified number 3, and you've got them locked down for 3 or 4 years. Yep. We haven't done much to support Paul Skeens, but at least we've given him some pitchers to be with him. You
can give us him if you want.
Well, no, we definitely will not be doing that. That's more off limits than Roman Anthony.
I know.
But okay, but you didn't mention Rafaela. Okay, now I like him better than Duran or Wilyer Abreu. I'm going to suspect you do too, since you didn't mention him.
Defense in the outfield, and he plays in the infield as well. So that's also something that the Red Sox really like about him. He's played some second base. He actually played second base tonight. He's played shortstop, and he plays in the outfield. So the Red Sox really like that they can kind of move him around in that regard. And as a 9 hitter, he's taken a lot of strides offensively from last year to this year. And that's something that the Red Sox really find that they need in the bottom of the order, because over the last few seasons, it really truly felt like the 6 through 9 hitters were automatic outs. And now they're getting to the spot where they don't really have that. And because of the fact that he's taken this big leap offensively, he's somebody that the Red Sox, I don't really see making available in any trade conversations.
That makes total sense. 2 more guys I wanted to just mention here with you. Any chance that Password Garcia is going to be available? Let's say, let's 100%. Say even it was like we wanted to just do a straight up prospect trade. Like we've got 3 AAA top notch starting prospects. What if one of those directly flipped for Garcia? Would that be something you might be open to?
Yes, it obviously would depend on who those prospects are and what positions they play.
Let's say Thomas Harrington, Hunter Barco, and Bubba Chandler. You'd have to consider 3 top starting pitcher prospects.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, because pitching is something that the Red Sox value, and they know that they need more of in their system. And that's something that they've been really emphasizing. I mean, the draft, the last couple seasons, they've really focused on pitching. Because they're trying to get young pitching. in this system. And the password is an intriguing player. I mean, the strides that he's taken from AA to AAA have been pretty tremendous. Huge power bat. And he's somebody who I know the Red Sox are open to moving because of the fact that they have a lot of outfield depth right now. He's somebody that I could see being packaged into a trade for sure. I'm not ruling that out. And I actually do think that that could be a little bit more of a likely scenario than people might think it is, because they know that his value is really high right now. They definitely value him and what he could bring in the future, but there's not necessarily confidence in them being able to find a spot for him right away when he's ready to be called up. So they know they could get a lot of value for him. I definitely would consider moving him if it was for the right return.
All right, well, Gabby, I can't thank you enough for joining me today to do this crossover. People will never believe the work that we put into it.
Oh, I know. Seriously, it's definitely been a journey for sure to get this done, but it's been fun, thinking of names and coming up with potential trade scenarios, because this trade deadline should be a fun one. And quite honestly, it has to be a big one for the Red Sox, because if they say they're buying, then they better be buying.
Right. And we've got to turn the ship around here. So, I mean, I think we learned some things. If we want anything to happen, we're going to have to part with Mitch Keller to get one of those major league level, outfielders. And Garcia being available was interesting to me, if only because I think there might be a deal there just on a minor league trade level. So that's a couple options there.
Yeah, I think he'd be hard, to part ways with, but the Red Sox are definitely open for the right return to move him. So it could be a really good fit for you guys with how well he's been doing in AAA.
Well, hey, that's all we got for you on this segment. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll be back to wrap up our own shows here shortly. So thanks a lot.
So as you can see, there are many different paths that this Red Sox team could take at the trade deadline this year. The question is just going to be, what path will they take? Will they go all in on high-level players and deplete a lot of their farm system? Will they go for more mid-level players that doesn't completely blow up their future, but also can help the team now and make them feel like they have a better roster going into the final push of the season? Or will they just not buy at all, which would be incredibly disappointing? Time will tell. But thank you for tuning in to Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every day. Next, be sure to check out Locked On MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Our local experts here at Locked On will discuss every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find that show wherever you listen to podcasts so you can hear updates on all of the biggest things surrounding baseball from that night. Thank you so much. Take care. Keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.